So today is our fourth lesson, and we are going to convert fractions and decimals. We are going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide numbers with decimals. So let's start with converting. So if I have 8 divided by 10, I'm just going to use long division to look at this. So this is 8 divided by 10, and 10 goes into 8 0 times. And so what we do is we drop the decimal in, and we put a 0 in here, and we look at how many times 10 goes into 80. And 10 goes into 80 8 times. So I can say that 8 over 10 is equivalent to 0.8. Now, really, not that we put it in, but there is a decimal here. And so what we can notice is that when we divide by 10, the decimal has been moved over one position to the left. Let's look at what happens when we do 8 divided by 100. So I'm just going to set it up with long division, and I'm doing 8 divided by 100. And 100 doesn't go into 8, so it goes in 0 times. I'm going to put a decimal in, and I'm dropping my 0 down. And 100 still doesn't go into 80. So we have to do this one more time. We add a 0 there and a 0 under our division symbol. And now we can say that 100 goes into 800 8 times. And when I subtract those, I get my remainder of 0. So I can say that 8 divided by 100 is equivalent to 0.08. Now, notice again, there's an invisible little decimal that is here. We don't put it in for simplicity's sake, but notice that when I divide 8 by 100, the decimal has moved over 2 places. And so we can say that when we divide a decimal by 10 or 100, etc., we move the decimal to the left. And if it's 10, it's 1 place. If it's 100, it's 2 places. If it was 1,000, we would move it 3 places to the left. All right, let's look at example 2. Example 2 says simplify 8 multiplied by 10. Well, I'm going to show you using long multiplication, but I think some of you might have guessed that this is 80. Just in case you're not sure, 8 multiplied by 10, 8 times 0 is 0, and 8 times 1 is 8. So when I look at 8 multiplied by 10, I can look at the same idea, and it's like there's this invisible decimal place beside it, right? 8 is equivalent to 8.0. And so when I multiply 8 by 10, what's happening is the decimal place is being moved over to the right. And when I multiply by 10, it's moved over to the right 1 place. If it's multiplied by 100, it's moved to the right twice. And so to answer this question, to multiply decimals by 10, 100, etc., we move the decimal place to the right. Let's do some simple addition and subtraction. So it's really important when we're adding and subtracting to really line things up with our decimals. So I have 83.11, and I'm adding 110.92. And all I'm doing is I really want to make sure that I line these decimals up. Okay, so 1 plus 2 is 3, 1 plus 9 is 10, and I've dropped my decimal in right where it's supposed to be. 3 plus 1 is 4, 8 plus 1 is 9, and I have 0 plus 1 is 1. So I can say that my answer here is 194.03. Alright, what about subtraction? Same idea. I want us to really work on lining these up nicely, so our decimals are all lined up. And I can just start 4 minus 2 is 2, 3 minus 1 is 2. My decimal is going to get lined up right there. 2 minus 5 I can't do, so I'm going to borrow this one, and it's going to be 12 minus 5, which is 7. So the answer to 12.34 minus 5.12 is 7.22. All right, let's look at some multiplication. All right, so when we're multiplying decimals, what I want you to do is find the product as if they were whole numbers. Okay, remember numbers without decimals or without fractions. When we're done finding that, we can fix the decimal place according to the total number of decimal places in the two numbers. So if, for example, we were multiplying 2.3445 by 2.11, how many decimal places should the solution have? And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do an example to see what that's like. So calculate 6.79 by 2.38. So when I do this, I'm going to start off by pretending that there's no decimal places. Alright, so I've got 8 times 9 is 72. And 7 times 8 is 56, but I have to add the remaining 7, so I have 63. And 8 times 6 is 48, plus 6 is 54. Put my 0 in. 3 times 9 is 27. I'm carrying the 2. And 3 times 7 is 21, plus 2 is 23. And 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20. Alright, last one now. I've got to put my 2 zeros in here. And I have 2 times 9 is 18. Carry my 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Carry my 1 again. And 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. And then I'm going to add them all up here. 2. And 3 plus 7 is 10. Carrying my 1. And 1 plus 4 plus 3 is 8, plus 8 is 16. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, and 1. Now, I still have to add in my decimals. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to count from here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And my decimal goes in here. So my answer to 6.79 multiplied by 2.38 is 16.1602. So I'm going to talk about the division rules as we calculate 0.044 divided by 0.12. The first thing I'd like you to do is just write it as a fraction. This is just division, and we can also use the fraction. This also means division. So I have 0.0444 divided by 0.12. Now I want us to use the same rules that we use for common denominators. If I multiply the top and the bottom by a multiple of 10 that has 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in it, which is 10,000. Of course, if I multiply the top by 10,000, I also have to multiply the bottom by 10,000. And the reason I've done this is so that I can get rid of my decimals. So 0.0444 multiplied by 10,000 is going to be 444. And 0.12 multiplied by 10,000, well, I'm going to be moving this over 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So I'm going to have 1,200. And now I can simply just do long division. So this is 444 divided by 1,200. Now 1,200 does not go into 444. It goes in 0 times. And I'm going to put my decimal down and add my 0. So looking at how many times 1,200 goes into 444, I started thinking about the multiples of 12 itself. 12 times 2 is 24, 12 times 3 is 36, 12 times 4 is 48. So if I did 1,200 times 4, I would get 4,800, which is too big. 1,200 multiplied by 3 is 3,600. It's not exactly, but it's the one we'll go with. And if I subtract this, then I get 0 minus 0 is 0, 4 minus 0 is 4, 4 minus 6. Now I'm going to have to borrow for this. 14 minus 6 is 8, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So I still have a remainder, so I'm going to add another 0. And I'm going to do the same process. I start to think about multiples of 12. And 12 times 7 happens to be 84. So 1,200 multiplied by 7 is going to be 8,400. And when I subtract these, I get 0. So I can say that 0.0444 divided by 0.12 is equal to 0.37. So just to summarize what we did is the first thing I did was I made it into a fraction instead. The second thing was to multiply by a multiple of 10. In this case, it ended up being 10,000 because I needed to move the smallest number over 4 decimal places. The next step was to actually do the long division. And finally, to write my answer. And don't worry, we'll have lots more practice in class.